Today we are going to be reacting to CSX's unveiling videos, which are kind of cringe in a way. We'll start with 1827, the B&O.
We're currently in the Waycross, Georgia paint shop. Behind me is the B&O heritage locomotive that we just completed, and looking forward to getting that out on the rails so everybody else can enjoy it as much as we enjoyed painting and getting it ready for you.
Mr. Hendricks and Mr. Boychuk, they had an idea.
This is the only one where they actually explain why they did these heritage units. This is the only one where they explain.
Had a vision to do some of these heritage units, and I kind of brought it to life. And as of right now, Waycross has painted the first one of them, and I think they've done a really nice job painting it. I love the idea of heritage, anything history with the railroad. Come from a railroad family. My dad, my grandpa both worked on the railroad.
I do like how CSX is doing heritage units. I don't like how they have the no CSX. Now, I think it's supposed to honor past and present, but it's done not the best.
When I started on the railroad in '98, I was actually on a B&O roster, so this B&O locomotive has a little bit of special meaning to me.
They get a lot of cool projects down here, but this is a really neat and a challenging project. It has a fade to it, which these guys have never done a faded paint job, and they.
Well, mad props to them. If they've never done it, they guess I did a good job. I mean, I kind of do like CSX heritage units, but yeah, the fade annoys me on some of them.
They did a good job.
Like
they stepped up and did a really good job.
You know, you have to look into the past. You have to, look and see where this company grew. And it's pretty cool to, to see, all the different railroads that just become CSX. And I don't think a lot of people just realize it, and so it's cool to learn the history.
As you see, the number's 1827. And
why can't the locomotive pull itself out of the shop? There has to be a reason.
It's cool to learn the history.
As you see, the number's 1827, and that was the year that the B&O Railroad was chartered, and it was purchased by the CNO Railroad several years later, which eventually becomes CSX.
Yeah.
B&O was the first one, 1827, and they have, it's basically a family tree of locomotives. I mean, you take different railroads over the years have merged or been bought out by CSX and to where we are now. And basically this is, to me, the concept is CSX on the nose and going into a fade into the heritage unit, whatever the heritage unit may be.
Okay, that explains it. That kind of explains it, but there's better ways to do it.
Kind of like pulling our history behind us, with what makes up what we are today, all these heritage units. Without these heritage, there would be no CSX. So.
There would be better roads, like the Baltimore and Ohio.
My dad was with the railroad 42 years. The heritage of it is, I don't know, just railroading is cool. I mean, it's a cool job. Not everybody gets to do this, and it's a pleasure and an honor to work for CSX.
Cool. Okay, so now we are going to be reacting to 1973's Unveiling. This one I think is a little bit shorter because I don't have to explain why they did it, but still, let's see how cringe this one can get.
Welcome back to the Waycross Paint Shop, where we are unveiling the chassis system locomotive. You can see behind me number 1973.
Freshly painted CSX YN3s are very crisp, like that. I like freshly painted YN3s, they're very crisp.
The chassis system was a holding company, the parent company of the CNO Railroad, the B&O Railroad, and the Western Maryland Railroad. So they owned and operated those railroads.
The C in CSX actually stands for chassis. I'm actually proud that the company has.
Yes, I do know that. I think CSX stands for Chassis System Seaboard. I don't know what the X stands for. I don't think it stands for anything.
Has come forth to do this, because it's showing that we respect our heritage, and where we come from.
We've painted a lot of locomotives. We've painted the business cars. We've painted the mighty chassis, but this one right here, this is one of my favorites. This one just turned out really nice.
This one is one of my least favorites. Actually, probably my least favorite because I can't justify going from bright orange and bright yellow to blue. Doesn't look nice.
Looks good, real good.
What is the C?
It's a cat.
It's the cat. It's the Chessie cat.
It's a chassis cat.
Yes, I do know what chassis is. It's a railroad cat. I think it was a Russian blue kitten. I think they had a sibling named Pete. I think it's a he.
Yep.
If you look it up, it's actually a picture of a small cat laying there with the covers pulled up to his neck and one paw sticking out from under the covers. It's really cool if you look up the real picture of it.
So the chassis unit took roughly 5 to 6 weeks to complete.
5 to 6 weeks. That would be a little bit less, but okay.
I was excited, and I know the guys, my coworkers were excited also, because we actually get to show what we can really do.
We had to do a lot of research to find
You had to do research. Is it called looking in your archives?
these colors. They're not everyday colors. So we were able to track it down mainly through historical societies.
This is just me, but you should have archives of these paint schemes.
I do feel like One CSX is bringing us all together as one, as a company. This team of guys is
I hate how they do that. No, this is the cringe part. Nope, I don't want this.
one of the best teams that I could ever work with.
These painters are just, they work hard, but the main thing is they take pride in what they're doing.
I feel like we're building history here. Not only are we a part of our past history, but I feel like, we're actually building history here as what we're doing today.
We are going to be reacting to 1982's Unveiling. Not UP 1982, CSX 1982.
You can see behind me here, we've got the 1982, which is the Seaboard System Heritage Locomotive. Since the late 60s, Seaboard Coastline Industries had operated the Seaboard Coastline. So in 1980, Seaboard Coastlines merged with the Chessie system to create the holding company of what is now CSX.
My granddaddy worked here when it was Seaboard Coastline.
Okay.
So it's being a part of something that he was a part of.
The Seaboard system operated.
I mean, the fade on that one, it's okay. Still, I would have liked to be fully painted.
For 4 years, from 1982 through 1986. So that's where we got the number for the locomotive, the year 1982.
Everybody was excited to work on a new project because it always presents challenges.
We couldn't find the colors really.
What? You couldn't find the colors like I said before?
Had a hard time finding colors. So we kind of had to get on the internet, do a lot of searching, found a company that provides paint for model trains. Luckily, they had the old colors, and we ordered the colors, got the colors in.
Imagine if they ordered a bunch of model train paint to paint on a giant locomotive like that.
And took it to our supplier, and they sprayed it out and matched it for us.
So when it arrives, it could take a day to 2 days to wash and bring it in, scrape all the old decals off, and then start the sanding process. Once the sanding is complete, we'll blow it off and clean it, wipe it down, take it in the booth, we'll prime it, bring it back out, resand it, and then we'll start the laying out of the colors, and then we'll start the color process.
I know they work pretty hard on these heritage units, but I wish they would get rid of the fade. Hopefully they realize that on the Clinchfield one, if they do one.
We've had people over the years, they've really wanted to see CSX do something like this, and as you can see, it's finally coming to life, bringing it to life.
Well, CSX heritage units are better than sticker units that CSX used to have, which you had to squint to see them. Okay, let's look at my favorite CSX heritage unit in 1976 is Unveiling.
Welcome back to Waycross, Georgia. We're here today to unveil the new Conrail Heritage locomotive behind me here, the 1976. Conrail Railroad, formerly known as Consolidated Rail Corporation, was operated.
Conrail, I miss you.
Actually operated from 1976 through 1999. It was the largest Class 1 railroad in the northeastern United States.
This was my favorite on account
Oh yes, it was the largest Class 1 railroad on the East Coast.
of the color. That blue, I really like that blue.
It was their color. It was Conrail's color, and I think the last locomotive that carried the Conrail blue, they retired that locomotive in 2014.
How dare they?
Most of these guys have been here 15 to 20 years, so they've seen a lot of the locomotives that they're painting now. So it's neat for them to have to be able to see the history that they seen when they hired in.
CSX is pulling its heritage with it as it goes. All these railroads, they're part of what CSX is.
I've heard that a billion times, bud.
They're part of our history.
These locomotives are actually going to be pulling freight. They're not going to be put in a museum or locked up somewhere. They're going to be hauling freight out on the rails.
Well, they'll be put in a museum when it's time for them to be retired.
Going through small towns, big towns, and people are going to be able to see
Sean B.
these locomotives as they come through their towns.
Okay, we're going to be looking at 1869's Unveiling right now.
Welcome to Waycross Paint Shop. We're here to unveil the 1869, the Chesapeake in Ohio.
My second favorite one.
With the 1869, that came from when the C&O was started, and Mr. Collis P. Huntington helped lead this, and it ran from Virginia down to the Ohio River, and they later named Huntington, West Virginia after Mr. Collis.
I do really like C&O. Really do.
So we worked with a vendor to get the colors, to color match for the Chesapeake and Ohio. Had to do some research on
Freshly painted locomotives, especially CSX, look really crisp. They really did a good job.
fonts and just keep it consistent with the way it was done in the past.
So I'm extremely happy with how it turned out. It's beautiful.
It turned out pretty good. Actually, it did.
It doesn't matter if you're in the wash rack, if you're sanding, or if you're in the paint booth. We all work together to put out a great finished product.
It's very meaningful to be able to work on all our heritage projects. It's important to remember the heritage, where we came from, to be able to keep moving forward. You have to know our past.
Okay, time to react to 1871's Unveiling, the Atlantic coastline.
Welcome back
Okay, time to look at 1971's unveiling. Time to look at 1971's unveiling video.
Welcome back to Waycross CSX Paint Shop. We're here today to unveil the ACL Heritage locomotive.
This is the Atlantic Coastline number 1871.
I do like the
That is
purple.
when Atlantic
I really do.
Coastline name started being used.
In 1967, ACL Atlantic Coastline merged with Seaboard Airlines, which is then
Seaboard Airlines is not an airline.
called Seaboard Coastlines. When we do the heritages, we actually take extra steps. We sand everything by hand, individually. I mean, it's a big process just to make sure, you know, that they are special.
Well, I did enjoy
I do understand that they put some work into these, but I don't know why they have to do the stupid fade.
working on this one. This is kind of a big one for us down here in the South.
Atlantic Coastline was big in Waycross. We had a lot of history here. Just a few miles from the paint shop is the Atlantic Coastline mural.
It's kind of
You
a
like it,
staple
actually?
piece. I mean, you can't miss it going into historic downtown, and it honors the heritage of the Atlantic Coastline.
We do a lot of research on the colors and the schemes, you know, just to make sure that we
It looks pretty accurate. It really does.
get it right. I mean, we want to get it right to make sure we do our heritage justice.
Look at 1853 is unveiling. Oh, so cringe.
Today we're in Waycross, Georgia for a rollout of the New York Central Heritage Unit of 1853.
The 1853 on this one is when the New York Central was established.
It ran from New York and Boston to Chicago and St. Louis,
I do like the paint on it. Just wish they would do, like, I don't know.
which connected the Northeast and the Midwest of the United States. The New York Central
I wish they would do New York Central, like that blue one. I wish they would do that. That would be cool.
paint colors are dark gray and light gray with white lettering and white trim.
When we come out of the sanding station, we go into the booth, we prime everything, and then we have to bring it back out and resand to make sure it's smooth. We send it back in, and that's when the first coat goes on. And then they may have to bring it back out and do a lot of taping and stenciling, and then it might go in, so it's a back and forth process.
I know it takes a lot of work to make these heritage units, but why does the fade exist?
It took us 22 days from start to finish on this locomotive.
Actually, that's pretty quick.
There's a lot of striping that we don't normally have, and it just took us a little while to get it laid out and get everything to where it looked right and looked nice.
It takes a team effort to get everything going, even in other parts of the yard. It's all a team effort. Everybody plays their part.
Okay, this is 1897's unveiling.
So we have the Monon, also known as the Hoosier Line. It actually run from Chicago down to Louisville, but most of it was in Indiana. From 1897 to 1971, eventually it merged with the Louisville and Nashville lines, and eventually that got absorbed by CSX. There were actually two paint schemes to the Monon. There was a scarlet and white
They should have done that one.
for the University of Indiana Hoosiers, and also the black and gold for the Purdue Boilermakers. We picked this one because, black and gold just looks good.
I like the other one better.
So most of the time these locomotives have been out on the road for a while, so sometimes they're a little worse.
These weren't like UP specially delivered to be heritage unit. UP as far as I know, the 6 original UP heritage units were delivered in primer paint and were painted with that paint scheme that they wore. They have never wore the UP Army Yellow.
Wear, but everything from washing it to sanding it to putting Bondo on it to the body work, it takes time and a lot of hard work and just a lot of planning, and we want to get these things right, so
I believe
we take pride in what we do, from the wash rack to when we push this thing out the door.
Okay. To look at 1836's Unveiling.
So we're here today in Waycross to unveil the 10th locomotive in our heritage fleet. We have the 1836. It's the RF&P Heritage Unit.
Has Tony seen that one?
RF&P was what I call a bridge line railroad that connected Richmond, Virginia to Washington, D.C. with
I've actually never heard the RF&P before this.
about 113 miles of track.
Well, before I heard of the 1836.
So the RF&P stands for Richmond, Fredericksburg, and Potomac.
And in 1991, CSX and RFP actually merged, and that ended the RFP after 156 years of service.
Heritage goes far beyond the paint, the font, the schemes. The heritage is the people that make these railroads. This one is specifically special to me.
Well, I do like how CSX is doing heritage units. Again, I hate the fade, but I really think they did a good job.
Because my father started his railroad career with the RF&P at Bryan Park Terminal in Richmond, Virginia in 1978.
The people who came before us, we like to honor them, because without them, there would be no us.
It's a very full circle moment for me to see the RF&P Heritage Unit out on the tracks. Brings back a lot of childhood memories. Seeing this logo on shirts, trucks, trains.
We're here at the Waycross Locomotive Paint Shop, and we're here to check out the Family Line System Heritage Unit.
I really like this one.
Family Line System was never actually an operating railroad. It was merely a marketing tactic which brought together the outlying lines of L&N, Clinchfield, Seaboard Coastline, and other smaller railroads. Eventually, 10 years later in 1982, it would become the Seaboard system, and then eventually CSX.
It takes 28 days from start to finish. Sometimes it may take longer, but this one took 28 days to finish.
Well, as long as February.
From start to finish.
The Family Lines actually adopted the Seaboard paint scheme of the gray and the gold and red.
Yeah, they look awfully similar.
We try to get as close as we can because you want it to look like it did back then.
Yeah, you don't want to get as close as they can. It does look pretty accurate, actually.
Don't want to try to waver away from it any.
But that video, how low quality is that?
As we can because you want it to look like it did back then. You don't want to try to waver away from it any. The history is important.
Cringe. Cringe part. Very cringe. Okay, so we are done watching CSX Unveiling videos. Remember to subscribe and hit the like bell. Also, if you want to watch a psychopath harass railroad crews, click on this link.